You're listening to the Business Brain Food Podcast. This is episode 118.
Welcome to the podcast that gives you direct access to the world's leading business building experts. Head to MaxMyProfit.com.au to catch up on past episodes, download your free business growth tools, and access show notes for every single episode. Now here's your host, Ben Futrell.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Business Brain Food. This, my friend, is the podcast that's 100% devoted to taking you and your business to the next level. And the good news is, doesn't matter whether you're brand new to this business thingy, so maybe you're just scratching that entrepreneurial itch, or maybe you're like myself and you've been in business for a long, long time and you've got the scars and the wounds to prove it. No matter what, there's always something new we can do to take our business to the next level. And today is no difference. In fact, I have got Michalowicz coming on the show. Mike is the author of 4 books that teach business owners how to make money out of their business. So I'm pretty sure you'll be keen on listening in on this chat. And it was a fantastic chat with Mike. It's great to get the people that are out there that have done it. He's walked the walk, not just talked the talk. He's built his own businesses. And in fact, not only has he succeeded greatly, he's failed greatly. And, it's always interesting to hear those stories. Now, before I do get stuck into the chat with Mike, I do want to say, if you are a first-time listener, first time tuning into the Business Brain Food podcast, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Go back and listen to the previous 117 episodes. Lots of content for you to catch up on. But we really do love having you around. If you enjoy the show, please leave a honest review and rating in the iTunes store, because it always does help newbies as they come across the show. So if you're a first-time listener and enjoy the show, leave your feedback. If you're a long-time listener, I'll ask you to do the same thing. Please leave your feedback in the iTunes store. Let other people know, what's going on. Now, we are a week from, not even a week, we're a few days from Christmas. Now, of course, you could be listening to this in the new year because maybe you're on a Christmas break. But if it is just before Christmas, happy Christmas. I want to thank you for a great year. This year has been a fantastic year. We've had some amazing guests. We've pumped out episode week after week after week, and it wouldn't be possible without 2 groups of people in particular, or 3 groups of people. So I want to just shout out to a few people that I need to say thanks to. First of all the guests that have been on the show. Without the guests, and by the way, the guests don't get anything in return for coming on the show, besides the fact that they're getting the exposure. But, that's a little bit of compensation for a lot of their time. I mean, people like today's interview with Mike Michalowicz. He is an entrepreneur who has, contributed to some pretty amazing things like the Wall Street Journal. He hosts a segment on MSNBC's Your Business Show in the States. He's written 4 books. The guy's an in-demand public speaker, yet he's taking out time of his evening to come on the show right before dinner. So for him, that's he's on the East Coast in the US. So they're pretty amazing stuff. So thank you to each and every guest that has been on the show over the last 2.5 years, but in particular this year in 2016. It's been great having you on the show. I also want to thank each and every of you that are listening, because without you, we don't have a show. We don't have a show, And what's happened this year more than anything, we've seen a skyrocket in the number of downloads. And what that has, meant is that we're getting more and more people. We're making a bigger impact, and I love that. I love the fact that people are tuning in, week out, and enjoying the show. But the other thing that's happened is I've received more feedback this year. And I guess that's because people are listening to the show more regularly. A lot of our members, the MaxMyProfit members in our Business Acceleration programs, are listening to the show and enjoying it. So big shout out to you if you are one of our members. If not, and you want to become one of our members, there's a quick plug, not done very graciously, but go to MaxMyProfit.com.au and you can sort of see all our different programs and available options there. So thank you so much for being a listener, for being a loyal listener, because I know that your time is in demand. There's so many people pulling your time in different directions, and to find an hour out of your week every week to tune into the Business Brain Food podcast is an effort, but it's an effort that obviously you deem as being a benefit, and you get a good return on your time. So here you are. So thank you so much for tuning in. The third group of people that I want to thank is my team, because this would not happen without my team. And, whilst it may take you an hour to listen to the show, it takes a lot more than that for it to come together. And my team includes my marketing coordinator and assistant, Sonia Irani, who, lines up all of the guests. It has a sheet of information for me for every interview that tells me who I'm speaking to, what they are experts in. And that takes a lot of work, coordinating the guests. We get a lot of requests now for people to come on the show, and each guest has to be vetted to decide whether or not they qualify to be on the Business Brain Fit podcast. So, thanks so much for Sonia for doing that, along with coordinating the rest of the team that do all the work. We've then got Tom, who does our audio editing. Thanks, Tom, looking after the editing of each of the podcasts. So the fact that this sounds beautiful in your speakers, it's polished and compressed, and all the blunders are edited out. Not that we do many, but if there are any, Tom makes sure they're out of here. So thank you, Tom, for doing that. And then we've got Mike over in the UK who does all our show notes, and he's the one that makes sure that when you go to our website or you go to the notes in the podcast player that you're using, is that you get to click on links. So someone goes through, and that is Mike. He goes through and he listens to every episode just to grab everything that we talked about. So links to Mike's books, for example, in this episode, or his website, or that, that's grabbed by them. So we've got an amazing team of people that help make this happen. So I just want to let you know that I appreciate you all, because I know without you, we wouldn't be able to bring you this show. It's not an easy task. As most people would know if they've ever tried podcasting, you need a team of people to help you do it. So thanks so much for each and every one of you that has helped make the podcast possible. I appreciate you. All right, so let's get stuck straight into things. Actually, before I do get Mike on the show, I just want to let you know that we launched a couple of new products, which is kind of cool. One of the things we've found this year is working with business owners with our Business Acceleration program. We've been able to help people understand that there is sort of an instruction manual for business, or what we're now calling our blueprint, which is 5 stages of business growth. So what we've done over the last 15 years of working with hundreds of businesses in dozens of different industries is I've learned that there are commonalities or common themes within a business that need to be addressed if the business is going to be successful. So that's the first step. But what we started to see was we were saying to you, okay, you need to have a plan. Let's talk about marketing, for example. You need a marketing plan. No one ever questions that. They go, yes, I need a marketing plan. But so many people don't have one. Why? 2 reasons. Not sure what to put in it, not sure how to do it. Even though, you can go back and listen to some of my previous episodes. I've done a whole episode on building a marketing plan. It still doesn't matter. It's a difficult thing to do. There's no 2 ways about it. You've got to do research. You've got to, think about marketing budget, acquisition costs, what type of client you're looking for, where you're going to find them, what offers are you going to make. There's a lot of work goes into a marketing plan, a huge amount of research. So sometimes you just don't know what to put in it. The second thing is you just haven't got the time, right? So you go, but Ben, I know I need a marketing plan, but I'm too busy doing all the demand stuff or reacting to my clients or the stuff that's going on in my business. So I just don't get a marketing plan done. Now, if I ask you this question, would you be better off going into the next year with a marketing plan and a marketing calendar that says every month, here's what you've got to do and here's who's got to do it? Well, the answer would be yes, right? It's a no-brainer, absolute no-brainer. So one of the new services that we launched just in the last few weeks, getting it ready for 2017, it's already been hugely popular, is that we are doing marketing plans for you. So I've brought on a marketing accelerator, and he is, he's got 30-something years experience in marketing, had his own marketing agency, and now he's working with you. You don't have to be a member of any sort. We can do this for anybody. But if you want to get your marketing plan done and sorted for 2017, then head to MaxMyProfit.com.au and you can shoot us an inquiry through the contact form there. Or if you just want to email me, ben@MaxMyProfit.com.au. In the subject line, put marketing plan, and then just say in the copy, I would like someone to talk to me about getting my marketing plan done. And one of the team will have a chat with you. Absolutely no obligation, no cost to start with. We'll have a chat with you and see where you're at and if we can help, and we'll sort you out. We'll tell you exactly how it is we go about, give you a bit of a brief on what our marketing plan includes, and help you get that done. So that's that's probably the biggest innovation that we have started to realize is that, by working with you and helping you understand how to grow a business is one thing, but getting the work done is another. So marketing plan is one. We also then can do the marketing execution once you've got the plan. So if you're struggling to get the marketing done, we can do that for you as well. So same thing, just, stick it in their email if you're interested in finding that out. And that could be, running all your digital marketing for you. It could be running your offline marketing for you. It could be coming up with the concepts, offers. It could be, doing the actual copywriting for you. It could be whatever, right? We're going to do it all for you. That way you've got no excuses and your business will grow. So amazing stuff. So that's one of our biggest innovations, I think, for this year. We've got a few more exciting ones that we are launching in the new year. But it is all about helping you take your business to the next level. That's what it's all about. So head to MaxMyProfit.com.au and check it out. You'll be able to find out everything you need to know right there. Okay, well, that's me rattling on enough with my shameless self-promotion. But, of course, I am here to help you grow your business. So if you want to grow your business, then let us help you do that. So today we have got Mike Michalowicz coming on the show. He's an entrepreneur behind 3 multi-million-dollar companies and the author of 4 books, which is The Pumpkin Plan, which we talk about these books a little bit in the interview, but The Pumpkin Plan, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, the Business Classic, and Profit First, which is sort of now the new, I guess, philosophy or program that he's running is this Profit First. And he's really built a good following the Profit First. And he also wrote a book called Surge, which is about riding a wave. So he's got those 4 books. So Surge, Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, and The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. I've had a bit of a read of The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, and I've got to say I loved it. I love his down-to-earth style. So if you looking for a good business book or 4 to read over Christmas, they're 4 books that I would definitely recommend. Now he's running his 3rd multi-million-dollar venture now, and he was a writer for the Wall Street Journal. He was a MSNBC business makeover expert. He's a popular keynote speaker, and he is an innovator when it comes to business. And I think you're going to really enjoy the chat that we have with Mike today. So without any further delay, let's just get Mike onto the Business Brain Food podcast.
Business Brain Food.
So it's awesome that Mike has been able to come on the Business Brain Food podcast. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Ben, thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure, my friend, my absolute pleasure. Now, before we do get stuck into talking a little bit about, putting profits first and making sure a business owner is making money, we are going to ask you the same question I ask every single guest, and that is for you to share something quirky about yourself.
It's time for something quirky. And now, something quirky.
I love that sound bit. So here's quirky, and I'll tell you, if you asked me yesterday, this would have not been my answer because it's official this morning. I am the owner of a cigar box guitar, and yesterday I didn't even know what that meant, but one of my fans of my book, Profit First, actually, was so kind that they built me a custom cigar box guitar. It's a guitar, 3-string guitar made out of a cigar box, totally playable, cool, funky sound. And so now I have to learn how to play a cigar box guitar.
So can you play a normal guitar?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, well, that's a bonus.
So, yeah, it helps, right? So I went into this guitar and I'm like, oh, I guess you play the same way. Well, no, it's tuned differently. It's played differently. So I have to learn how to play this thing, but it's a funky sound. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've always wondered about those things. I'm a guitar player myself, and they look interesting. I think it's more of a novelty, is what I've always thought. So I'd be interested to see how you get on with it, and if you can really, smash out a tune on it somewhere down the track.
Yeah, unbelievably, it's an electric. I mean, it's acoustic and electric. It's got a plug-in it's got some kind of pickups inside. It's unbelievable.
All right. Well, there you go. It's a great bit of gratitude for someone who's obviously enjoyed your book. Let's have a bit of a chat about that. Now, you've been quite successful in the past, but you've also had the highs of highs and the lows of lows. So maybe just share your story a little bit with the listeners.
Sure. So as an entrepreneur prior to being an author, had the good fortune of building some companies and selling them. But maybe, quite frankly, it turned into misfortune because after I sold my businesses, I thought I knew the formula to success, financial success, and was cocky and arrogant, to be honest. I ultimately became an angel investor. I now lovingly call myself the angel of death because I was the worst angel investor. I was the worst angel investor of all time. I blew money on that. I blew it on arrogant things, cars and houses, and just trying to play the part of success, but not understanding it. And basically approached bankruptcy. When I had nothing left in my bank account, that was kind of the great awakening. And I decided to start writing, it sounds embarrassing, but a diary, a journal, I guess is what a guy would call it. I started writing a journal to really kind of navigate this phase of my life. I was terrified, and I actually entered depression because I couldn't make anything work. But this diary that I started writing down the challenges and problems I had and what I thought my solutions were to them. Well, those solutions started becoming the foundation for my first book and ultimately became a book. And that's how I became an author. A full-time author was from a diary.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And it's interesting you say that. So many entrepreneurs have learnt the hard way that just because you had a few successful businesses doesn't mean that everything you touch is going to turn to gold.
It's unbelievable. I was convinced like that once you get it down, you just rinse and repeat. But it's not true. I found there's one big part of entrepreneurial success that I didn't account for, and I think it's true for many people. And what that is that good fortune and lucky timing does play a part in our success. And I was reading about a case study with Uber, the car company that's exploding. And what's interesting, they said, in 2005, if someone came to you and said, hey, would you be willing to pick up a stranger in some random area, you don't know where it's going to be, drive them to some random place in your private car, and you have no idea who they are? And that sounded absurd. But when 2008 rolled around, there was such a significant global economic decline that people were willing to take that risk of picking up a stranger. And that became the catalyst for Uber's success. So Uber, of course, didn't plan economic decline, but that good happenstance, in their case, good happenstance, is what triggered the growth of that company. And I think it plays out in so many businesses. There's this unaccounted for external component that we have no control over. And if we position ourselves in front of it, though, it can really spark business growth,
Yeah, which is I mean, such a good opportunity for so many people in business. And I know, having come from that position, you must have learned an awful lot. And you've got 4 books in total. And some of the titles actually intrigue me enough to sort of have a bit of a flick through each one. The toilet paper. So which one was the first one? Was it the Toilet Paper Entrepreneur? Was that your sort of your
Yeah, Toilet Paper Entrepreneur is my first book, and that book it's a very edgy kind of read. And my thesis for that book was that we don't need money to build a business. They say it takes money to make money, and I say no, that's not true. There's got to be a better way. And they say, you need resources and contacts and education to get started. And I found it's actually the opposite. The most successful businesses had a lack of education, a lack of resources, a lack of contacts, and a lack of money. And all that lack sparked ingenuity and rule breaking. And that's what made these companies charge ahead. So it's not the having that moves you forward. It's actually the lack that moves you forward.
Yeah, which is interesting. And I mean, you've got a philosophy on a business plan that a business plan is a waste of time. Do you forge forward without any plan at all? What's your advice to business owners in that regard?
Yeah, so I think a traditional business plan is a waste of time. And what I mean by that is where you write out your financial projections. That's one of the key elements of a business plan. What's your revenue look like in the next 6 months, next year, 5 years out, and so forth. And my argument is, if you can predict the financials of a business that you haven't even started yet, you're starting a business, you probably can predict the financials of a traded company, like a public company. I mean, if you can figure out your financials for the next 6 or 7 years and you don't even exist, you probably can figure out the financials for one day for a public company. And if you could do that, you could become a billionaire. And no one does it. Maybe Warren Buffett, but most people can't do that. So my argument is, if we're making these fictitious numbers and we actually believe them to be true. And so we start building a company around this, and then we get bamboozled when things don't go our way. So what I suggest is doing a non-traditional or a new way of planning. And what it is first to set that vision. A lot of people talk about vision, putting the X on the map. Where do you want to head? What does it look like when you get there? And that will at least set us on a course. But then I suggest we use a tacking strategy. That's a term taken from the sailing industry. And how tacking works is, once you put an X of where you want to head, you move forward in short increments, leveraging wind, avoiding obstacles, leveraging the tides and the way water is flowing. And after that short distance, say you go a few hundred yards, you stop and then you actually zag the other way. So you zig one way and then you zag the other way toward that goal, and you push again another 100 yards forward, and then you zig again. So it's this kind of zigzag pattern where you push forward in the optimal way for a moment of time, but you will always end up on the X because you keep zigzagging and realigning to it. And that's what a business plan should be like. At least that's what I argue. What's that vision we have? Now let's leverage what's happening in the immediate environment. I think the next 90 days is the best. That's 1 quarter, 3 months. Over the next 90 days, what's the status of our competition? what's the big opportunity in front of us? What's the client base look like? You evaluate all these things and then push forward as hard as you can, leveraging that stuff. And after 90 days, reassess where you stand, push forward again, and keep doing this in 90-day increments, and you'll get to that destination that you've outlined.
Great tip, and something that we really push with our clients, in particular through my business MaxMyProfit, is 90-day planning, more operational planning. So I was interested to hear your thoughts on that, because I had read that you thought a business plan was a waste of time, but you've also written a book called The Pumpkin Plan. So I thought there must be some planning in there somewhere.
Right. There is a plan. So in that book, I wanted to investigate growing businesses. How do we grow our business? And I found something that's fascinating, that ironically in the pumpkin industry, that there are a small faction of farmers who grow these colossal pumpkins. I'm sure you've seen these pictures, Ben, these massive pumpkins that are almost as big as a car. And it intrigued me. I asked these guys and I researched how they do it. And I ultimately spent about a year of my life studying colossal pumpkin farming. And here's what I found that's fascinating. They change the growing process from an ordinary pumpkin just by a little. They water it differently. They just, the way they mature the plant is slightly different. The way they manage weak versus strong sprouts is slightly different than the ordinary pumpkin farmer. But by doing a few things differently, the pumpkin starts responding with explosive growth. Well, I found this to be a perfect analogy for as observing in businesses. I noticed that businesses that have explosive growth, and I also experimented my own company, my second company, I applied this plan, grew very quickly. That's why I sold to a Fortune 500. And what I did was notice there's maybe 5 or 6 things that if we just make small adjustments in our business, sometimes counterintuitive, that the business starts responding with organic explosive growth. And what's nice about this is, as the pumpkin plan works, you don't typically need to invest money. You don't need to seek out venture capital. It's simply just adjusting how you position your company that in most cases results in this explosive organic growth.
Yeah, which is such a good tip for people, because I think sometimes it's also the little small things. Lots of little things make a big difference.
They really do. They really do. I mean, some of the elements I talk about is there's no question, over and over again, every business I've studied, niche specialization is such a key factor. Concentrating your efforts in one category. And it's hard to believe that's true, because when we look at the large common names that we all recognize, Microsoft or Procter & Gamble or whoever it is, it looks like they're very diversified. Microsoft does all these different things, from video games to making hardware to managing, search engines like Bing, and Procter & Gamble makes all these different products. But the thing is, they didn't start there. All companies I've studied, every one that's grown explosively, I challenge people, tell me one that hasn't done this, have been very focused on a very specific community and often delivering a very specific service. Microsoft was just delivering a software platform for IBM. It was Microsoft DOS. Walmart, who sells, arguably everything, was just small town America, lower income people that wanted to have a higher income experience with their products. Very targeted for that community, and saturate, just hit that market over and over and over again. Once they got to 50 million, 100 million, whatever it was in sales, absolutely they diversified. But for smaller businesses that want explosive organic growth, it all starts with niche specialization. That's at least step one. There's a lot more steps to it, but that's step one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a dozen steps at least.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that I see happening, being involved in the industry I'm in, is over the last 15 years, I've seen a lot of people fail in business. And I'm sure you've seen the same thing yourself. You've seen, you've had your failures, as most of us do as entrepreneurs. What do you think are the key things? What are the reasons do you think businesses don't make it? I mean, if they do have a niche and they specialize in that niche and they're passionate, and most business owners are passionate about what they do, yet the frightening thing is, I think it's something like 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 5 years. What do you think is the reason for that?
I think it's top line thinking. So, because these are many of these people I'm trying to help. It's unfortunate, but most of the inquiries I get is on I call it the last gasp call. The last gasp call. This is a business that has one breath left before it dies, and they're like, "What do I do now?" And unfortunately, that's where many businesses are. The reason is the focus is top line. And when I say top line, it's revenue. I got to grow. The mentality is I got to grow. I need more clients. I need more sales. What people don't understand is every time you bring in another sale and another client, that brings on more responsibility, aka more expenses. You need now to sell to service what you sold. But now you're spending money on the service, so the entrepreneur's like, I got to sell again. I can barely pay for what's going on here. I need to sell again, but that brings on more service responsibility. These businesses, in many cases, are diversified. Anyone that knocks on the door is welcome. And the more variety you have in your clients, the more variety in your services, and the greater likelihood that you'll have problems. I have the good fortune of now being a co-owner in a manufacturing business. And manufacturing principle 101 is reduce the variability. Fewer variables means fewer errors, more consistent product, meaning more efficient and cheaper to make. And what we realize is all businesses ultimately are manufacturers. As a service-based business, I am manufacturing, if you will, delivering an end product, which maybe is an emotion or feeling. If I'm an accountant, I'm delivering maybe confidence. But then we need to kind of reverse engineer from there and say, how do we get there in the fewest steps most consistently so that the client is happy and we have the fewest variables? So if entrepreneurs can stop focusing on the top line, I got to grow, and start focusing on who are the clients I can serve by doing the fewest things most consistently and still wow the clients, that's where we're going to narrow down my focus. And then the focus behind that is profitability. I will measure my success by how much dollars it brings home and stays home. I have a saying, it's not how much you make, it's how much you take. So if we start measuring our business by the true bottom line, that's what matters, the profitability per client, reduce the variability in the type of clients we serve and the variability in what we're offering those clients. That is the foundation to resolving that top line thinking. One final thought. There's a saying that revenue is vanity and profit is sanity.
Yeah, I like that other one. It's not what you make, it's what you take. Because I think so many business owners couldn't even tell you whether or not they're making profit. Do you find that a lot? You talk about these business owners that come to you for that last gasp of air, and quite often it's too late. We see the same thing doing what I do, but we find a lot of people just aren't looking at their numbers. Do you find that's an issue?
Yeah, it is true. It is so true. It happens a lot. So I see businesses come here and say, I say, well, what's the numbers look like? And they say, well, I'm doing $1 million. I say, okay, I assume you're talking revenue, right? Well, yeah, what else is there? I'm like, well, what's going to expenses? What's going to profitability? And they're like, well, everything's going to grow my business. So I don't even use the words expenses. And how much are you taking home? Well, nothing. And so very few businesses know what's going on beyond the top line, because it's the only thing we measure. And I would argue that entrepreneurs aren't necessarily the one to blame. That's the life, or that's the way we've been trained. If you read any magazine, it always talks about the top line. Here's what this company's doing. Here's what Xero's doing. Here's what Microsoft is doing. It's always about the top line. It's $1 billion company now, but there isn't much focus on the bottom line. And even accounting tells us that and I write about this in Profit First. Accounting says it's sales minus expenses that equals profit. And that's a total lie. It's a total lie. Mathematically, it's correct, but behaviorally, it's wrong. Because what that formula tells us is that focus on sales is the first thing we see, subtract expenses. Now we call it growth, but subtract expenses, and profit comes last. Profit is an afterthought. And it's human nature, when something comes last, it's the last consideration, it's a non-consideration. And so most entrepreneurs I talk to say, oh, profit, well, I'll worry about that at year end. Let's see what I make next year. No. Profit needs to be baked into every single transaction of the business. Profit needs to be focused on first, not last.
So if you're dealing with a company, or if someone listening is in a company where they're at that situation now where they are at the end of their role, to use your quote, because I like that one, even if you're at the end of your role, there's something we can do.
Right.
On that toilet paper entrepreneur. What's your advice to someone that's in that situation, that hasn't been focusing on making profit? Instead, they've been focusing on getting the next sale, but they're still not making ends meet.
Well, and this confounds them, but we must start taking profit immediately. And it's kind of weird to say that to a company that hasn't been profitable. To say, starting today, we're going to start taking your profit first. And often the response is, but I got expenses to pay. I can't be profitable until I pay expenses off or my debt. And my argument is the only way to pay off debt and expenses is by being profitable, meaning debt is an expense that you've incurred in the past and were unable to pay at that point because you didn't have enough money. We have to be profitable today to pay off that debt from the past and to, of course, maintain and pay our expenses. And the process I follow is real simple, Ben. What we do is every time a deposit comes in, we immediately take a predetermined percentage. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10 or 15 or 20%. But every time a deposit comes in, we immediately take that percentage and allocate it toward profit and hide the money from ourselves. What I mean is, say $100 comes in. We take, say it's 10%, $10, and we hide it away from the business. We transfer that money out to another account, and we run the business off the remaining 90. Because here's the one thing I know. Most businesses that are surviving and living today have been surviving check by check, just getting by with what they have. They've found a way to make do with what they've had. And the great lesson is that humans are very capable to make do with what we have. I mean, we started off the show talking about how you can make a guitar out of a cigar box. I suspect someone has a cigar box around saying, hey, I want to make an instrument. And they said, well, this is all I got. And they found a way to literally make a guitar out of a cigar box. Well, we as entrepreneurs have that same innovative spirits inside us. And if we remove our profit first and hide it away, and there's a little less money to run our business off of, we will still find a way to run our business just as effectively off of less money. But in this case, the profits will start piling up behind the scenes. So that's the goal. Take your profit first. Even if you haven't been profitable, even if you're on your last dime, you're at the end of your roll, if you immediately start taking a small percentage of profit, you'll start finding a way to reverse engineer, make that profitability happen every single time. And over time, we can even grow that percentage and reserve more and more profit.
Yeah, good tip. Good tip. I think, where did I read that? I think with The Richest Man in Babylon on one of those books.
Yes.
You pay yourself first.
Yes. Yeah. So the pay yourself first principle has been around forever. And it works because it works. And it works in our private lives. I'm just the guy arguing, let's not just do it in our personal lives. Let's do it in our business lives.
And what do you think about, the mindset stuff? I think there's a lot of people out there that are saying your business is where it's at is because you think the wrong way or you haven't got your mindset right. You need to go and do all this personal development, go to a Tony Robbins seminar or read The Secret and go and meditate under a tree. And I call that tree huggerville. That's my terminology for it. And I think it's certainly got its place, but I'm a much more practical, tactical kind of guy. What's your thoughts on that type of thinking? Is mindset a big part of it? Or to me, it sounds like your philosophy is fairly tactical, like take a percentage, stick it in a bank account and don't use it.
Yeah, it is that simple. It is tactical. I think mindset's huge because I've seen mindset unwind this. We estimate now about 30,000 companies globally are doing profit first, which is just scratching the surface. There's over 80 million small businesses in our planet. So we haven't even scratched the surface with this. But with 30,000, we've had a sampling. And when people fail to be successful in their profit first, we ask them, what happened? Tell us what the problem was. And inevitably it boils down to that they didn't believe it could work, and therefore they proved themselves right. I think it was Henry Ford who said, if you think you're right or think you're wrong, either way you're right. Or if you think you can or think you can't, either way you're right. Maybe that was the saying. And I do believe in it, that our mind can become an obstacle. Now, I'm not a big fan of affirmations or sitting down just repeating over and over, I can do it. But quite frankly, if you say I can't do it, it's not going to happen, you will find a way. So maybe affirmations do work. We just got to stop saying the negative. There is a better way. I also found that there's this compulsion to go with the familiar. In the dating scene, I've been out of that scene for a while, but when I was dating, if I was in a bad relationship and it wasn't working out, I would say, okay, I'm done with this relationship. And then I'd notice I go right back into the same relationship or go back and start dating the same woman. And what I realized is, even though I didn't like something, I was at least familiar with it, so I knew what to expect, and it was more comfortable than going into something that's unfamiliar. And this isn't true just in the dating scene. I mean, this is true anywhere. And in business, even when our business isn't working, we're not making any money, we're comfortable with it because at least we know what to predict. It sucks. It's sucking our souls dry, but at least it's predictable. And so when someone proposes a new idea, like take your profit first or something, it sounds so foreign, even though it could be the salvation to our business. In many cases, we revert to the familiar. So you got to break out of that mindset of doing what's comfortable. You got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Good tip there. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable if you're going to move forward. I think that's what I think people said. The magic happens outside of your comfort zone, so that's where you've got to go.
So true.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Do you think that some people are just plain lucky? Like you talked about Uber before, and I don't know, how Uber's been managed or run or built or marketed, but are they just riding a wave of technology-based businesses, or do you think that luck doesn't have anything to do with it? It is all about being a smart business operator.
So it's funny. I used to thought it was purely a smart business operator, but now I believe luck is a factor. But luck is equally presented, I think, to all of us. Not at the same time, not in the same way, but luck presents itself. So the question is, are we in the right place, the right time to capture that luck? Uber, who we talked about, was in the right place, the right time to capture what happened in 2008 with the great global economy declining and the shift in people's mentality. But Airbnb was there too. Airbnb said, could you imagine in the early 2000s, someone saying, "Hey, Ben, would you mind, sparing one of the bedrooms at your house to a stranger you've never met before, that's maybe just traveling through town, nothing about them, and make them breakfast too when they're ready to leave." Yeah. That's absurd. But now Airbnb is wildly successful because of the luck of 2008, economic decline. People were hungry to make money and willing, so much so that they were willing to rent out space in their home to a stranger. And that spawned the success of Airbnb. So it kind of tips the hat to Serge. That's why I wrote that book. I had a reader read my other books, which are all kind of systems or approaches, tactile, and said to me, how do you time the market? Because all these strategies, as wonderful as they may be, are of no benefit if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I started studying how to position yourself, and I found there are ways to do it. If you, starting off what we talked about earlier in the pumpkin plan, if you pick a niche, a community, you can then watch that behavior. What is their new interests and demands? And see if there's an opportunity there. One of my stories I shared in Surge was a guy named Tony Lilios. He founded a company. Oh my gosh, they slipped my name now, but they make phone cases. A huge company now. But what he did was he was going through different stores and stuff for automobiles, and noticed that a lot of automobiles had these aftermarket parts where you could change out the stick shift with a different colored knob, and always different aftermarket products with different colors and so forth. Then he went into a mobile store, noticed the same people that were buying parts for automobiles, then went to the mobile store with their new mobile phone to get a case, and all the cases, maybe you remember this, all the cases were black. That was the only option, black. And he goes, wow, with automobiles, originally Henry Ford went from, just introducing black was the only color to all these other companies bringing about other colors, and they really stepped forward. Now he notices in automobile accessories, he said, I wonder if it's going to happen with phones. I'm going to try it out. And he started making phone cases, the same ones, just in different colors, and it grew explosively. So I think we need to identify the market we're going to serve and then watch their behavior. What's the missing thing they need? And then if you can be the first to deliver that solution to a market, you may be in the right place at the right time now. You may catch all that momentum.
Yeah, because I think if you look at some of the most successful businesses in the world, they have ridden, a wave, or what they say, all ships rise in a rising. What is it? A rising tide, all ships, or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I think you look at with this whole technology, like you said, Uber came about at the same time. There was a bit of an economic crash, so people were looking to save money. But they did something else though. Those businesses have made life easier. I know myself as an Uber user, it's just easier than catching a cab, right? So I go, well, was it that they were just lucky, or were they actually studying the marketplace and going, you know what, we can make this easier for people and we can make it cheaper. And of course, that formula means people are going to buy it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh no, I agree. I think the core to their success and everyone's success is you serve a client in a new, better way. There's no question that was it. It needs to be coupled with being in the right place, right time. Because Uber could have come out, say 200 years ago. Uber could have tried to come out 200 years ago. The technology didn't exist, and everyone had a horse and buggy. It can come out 100 years from today, and automated cars will be here probably within 10 years, and that may bring about a whole new innovation where Uber's irrelevant. So you do have to be in the right place at the right time. I think that's a part of it. The timing is a part of it. But no question, once you get the timing right, the skill is the 90% of it. I mean, you got to be introducing something that the customers want and need and is better than the alternatives.
Yeah, good distinction, because I think, you look at something like Facebook. A lot of people go, Facebook was a brand new technology platform, was this brand new thing, never been done before. And I always argue with people, no, it had been done before. It's called socializing or networking.
Right.
And all Zuckerberg did was brought that to an online platform that made it easier for you to communicate, share, high five your friends, whatever it might have been, all virtually. But it was something that's been going on for centuries. It was just brought to an online platform, and he did it very well.
Yeah,
so,
new flavor.
Yeah, a new flavor. So one of the questions I'm always interested in asking entrepreneurs like yourself is, two things around where you invest your time and how much time you invest, because a lot of people think you've got to work hard to be successful. Yet then you've got people like Timothy Ferriss writing books about working 4 hours a week.
Right.
For the business owners that are listening that maybe are right now stuck in their day to day, they're working 12 hours a day and not getting where they want. Obviously, they're doing something wrong. So working hard to be successful is not the answer. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So for me, I'm not perfect at this. There's no question I work more than I should at times, but I have learned to focus on what I am most talented at and then hire for the areas I'm not. And when just starting a business, when it was just me, I have to do it all. But very quickly, I would determine what is my biggest weakness and hire someone there. So for now, public speaking is a strength of mine. At least I think it's perceived that way. And it helps me further my life's purpose, my mission, which is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. Like, that's why I exist. So every book I write, everything I do is to help entrepreneurs get out of this impoverished experience that so many have, but don't admit to. So public speaking and writing is my core strengths. So that's what I do: speak and write, and do that every day. Did it today. And the other elements of my business that are critical, they're the foundation that allowed me to do that work. I hire people for that. Everything from scheduling to, invoicing to marketing to social media and all that stuff, all critically important to your business. But if I try to do it all, it'd be all marginal. So I over time hired more and more people to help with that. I'm looking for one more person right now to do all of our video and digital production. I think that's a very important facet to getting the word out is video content. But now I need someone that can produce that content. So I'm bringing those people on. And, when people hear that, they say, well, I can't afford to do it, right? That's, I think, a common belief. But I found it to be a misnomer. I think the perception is if I hire someone, I'm hiring a full-time employee that's going to sit in my office and do all this work. I think there's a lot to learn from Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week and outsourcing and part-time employees. And stuff like that. But there is no excuse to keep doing all the work ourselves, because if we do it all ourselves, it prohibits us from going into our strengths and doing what we really should be doing. I think it's just a lazy person's way is try to do everything yourself. It never allows you to live into your strengths. Yeah.
Do you think that it's just about making that decision to make that step? Because so many people are, you're right, they say, I can't afford to do it. But and they'll be listening to this game, but Mike, you don't understand. My business is different. I'm sure you haven't never heard that before,
I don't have the money,
sure.
My business is different. Yeah, you don't know me. I get it. I totally get it. I believe it. But kind of talking about our mind shift, got to ask yourself a new question. Maybe it starts off with what if? What if I could get someone in here in some capacity? And, how do you get money off the table? You can barter. You can get part-time people. You can get a productivity-based people, based upon the certain results they bring to you, they get a percentage. That's how many salespeople work. You bring in a certain number of sales, you get a percentage of it. Those people exist. I personally, for my business, I found my 4-hour work week equivalent was not to offshore stuff. It's actually to bring in part-time employees. So I have 8 employees. I see 7 employees now. I'm the 8th. 7 employees at my office. Every single one, except for now one person, is part-time. And here's the thing that blows me away, Ben. When I have someone who works 4 hours a day and I give them 8 hours of work, they still get 8 hours of work done in the 4 hours. So what I found is now I have people that are working half the time, but delivering double the work. And because they're part-time, at least in the US, there's certain benefits you don't need to deliver. You don't need to deliver health benefits or anything. Vacation, you don't need to pay for vacation. Financially, it really allowed me and continues to allow me to bring people on earlier than I would because the savings are so big and the benefit they deliver is just massive. I don't think I could ever go back.
Yeah, and obviously that's going to help with the profitability long term. Because I think that's the thing is I always say to people, my thinking, Mike, is that people value their money more than their time. And I think that's a real shame in life because money, you can always make more money, right? So you can lose all your money. People have proved that time and time again, lose everything and you can get back on your feet. But if you spend your time in the wrong areas, you're wasting it and it's gone forever. You never get that back. Someone big one is saying, value your time more than your money because people are willing to put their time into things to save or what they think is saving them money, but it's probably costing them money and time.
Yes, I agree fully. And I think there's a turning point too. I realize when you're just starting out and you don't have 2 nickels to rub together, I think to hire someone that you can't afford just puts more stress on the organization. So I do see that, but there's a certain point where you need to hire people, and it is the time for money trap. Say I could make at the most, I could make say $50 an hour. I mean, realistically, if I work all the time, well, what's the most I could work on a given day? I'm thinking maybe 12 hours. I mean, really without being exhausted, maybe 16 hours, but you got to get some sleep. So let's say 12 hours a day. And can I do it every single day of the week? Maybe. So let's say 7 days a week times 12 hours. That's 84 hours times 50. That's 50 times 8 is what I'm running that math in my head, 44,000 a week. So if I really work hard, I get 4,000 a week, that's 200,000. I can maybe make $200,000 a year working my butt off and being purely exhausted. But what if I can make $1 an hour without doing anything? What if I could literally be sleeping, making $1 an hour? And that's what it is like to have employees because we're outsourcing the work to them. You may not be sleeping, but they are doing the work and they're delivering that revenue. Now, the break even in this weird, I mean, this is an extreme scenario, but if I get 50 employees, now I'm making $50 an hour without doing anything. There is no time trade-off. So that's the consideration. Like when you hire people, you're getting work done without any effort. That's significant. And it isn't a 50-to-1 ratio. I found like with 2 or 3 people, I'm starting to make the revenue without effort that I would have had to make working my butt off.
Yeah. My thinking around that is you go from earning to making, and you can always make more than you can earn. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Well, mate, I know it's been absolutely awesome and we could talk all day. I just love your philosophies and your straight shooting when it comes to business, but we are just about out of time. How can people find out more, Mike? Because you have got all these books and you've got a great blog and I think you've got your own podcast as well. So where can people find out more?
Yeah. So the mecca for all that stuff is my website. Here's the way. Well, here's how you find it, but it's going to be very difficult. It's my name, MikeMichalowicz.com. Problem is my name is probably the most difficult name to pronounce on the planet. So there's 2 shortcuts to get there. If you go into a Google search engine and type in Mike, my first name, and then Mick, M-I-C, the longest, most Polish name that pops up in the Google search engine, that's me. So Mike Mick is one way. But the other one is if you go to Mike Motorbike, that was my nickname in high school. So go to MikeMotorbike.com. That'll bring you to my website. And up on the website is chapters from my books, downloadable for free. and my podcast that I do called the Profit First Podcast. And also, I used to write for the Wall Street Journal for a couple of years. So if you choose to subscribe on my website, you can get all of my Wall Street Journal articles that I wrote, which there are some nifty ones in there. I'm pretty proud of them.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, for those of you that are listening that can't find Mike because you can't spell his name, we'll put the links in the show notes anyway. That way, we'll make it nice and easy. You'll just be able to say, we'll put like a click here to go to Mike's website. But it does come up first in Google. That's how I found all of the information, was just putting in Mike Mick, and it came. Google has you as a suggested. I thought, oh, that's good. That made it easy.
Yeah. Thank God for Google.
You wouldn't be the only person to say that. Thank God for Google. All we've got left to do, my friend, is the 60-second scramble. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, lay it on me.
All righty, let's start the clock. Your favourite book?
Purple Cow.
Oh, by Seth Godin. Good book. Favourite app on your phone?
It's probably the workout app. It comes with the Apple iPhone, and I work out constantly because of it. Holds me accountable. Awesome.
Now, you're a pretty entrepreneurial guy, doing a lot, got heaps going on. What's your best way to tune out and relax?
Best way, football, college football in particular. American football. I cannot stop watching it.
Nice stuff. Now, besides playing a cigar box guitar, do you have a hidden talent?
I can do a Bill Clinton imitation.
We have to.
I did not do that. I love Monica. Yeah, not the best. I got to be in the mode. I got to have a beer in me, but that was okay.
Or maybe we should get you drinking. Oh, dear. What's your biggest addiction?
My biggest addiction? Well, it goes back to college football. Seriously, I'm addicted to it. I could watch 12 hours a day. It drives my wife nuts. Nice stuff.
And there is the buzzer, but I'm going to ask one more question, and that is for you to share your favorite inspirational quote with the listeners.
Oh, I have on my wall. It says, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do it, because what the world needs is people who have come alive.
Oh, I love it. Who's that quote by?
I think it's Whitman. I don't know. Is it philosopher? I got to look it up.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Love that. I've never heard that one before. What a fantastic quote. Well, Mike, I can't thank you enough, mate. It's been an absolute great chat. Good luck with everything in the future. I know, with your vision and your mission is very inspiring, and you're changing the world one business at a time or one entrepreneur at a time. I think it's amazing. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Ben, thank you. I appreciate it. No end.
Learn more to earn more.
Well, there you go. What a fantastic chat with Mike. I think that it'd be fair to say that you would have got a fair bit out of that. And if you are at the end of your role, I love it. If you're even at the end of your role, there's something you can do. I'm a great believer, and as you said, that Richest Man in Babylon book talked about putting 10% of your salary away in a bank account. And he's brought that whole philosophy in his book of Profit First to business. Put 10% away, 5%, 20%, whatever it is you can afford into a profit account, even if it's just 1%, so $1 out of every 100. At least that way you're getting some profit out of your business. And I think it's such a great philosophy. I love the practicality of it. I think that's what it's all about. So once again, Mike, really appreciate you coming on the show. It was great to have you on the Business Brain Food podcast for the final episode of 2016. And on that note, I want to say Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I hope you have a very safe Christmas and an extremely happy new year. It is a time to relax and reflect on the year that was, but of course, get yourself ready for the year that is, and that's 2017. There's a lot to be done in business. There's a lot changing. It changes quicker. They reckon, what used to happen in 30 years is taking 3 years. So I think you need to be ready for a big one. And make it a big one. I think it's what it's all about. If you are enjoying the podcast, if you wouldn't mind, into the iTunes store, leave me a little Christmas present, which would be a review and rating, and I will see you on the other side of Christmas. I hope the big jolly fella is good to you when he comes down the chimney. Obviously, only if you've been good. He knows who's been naughty, who's been nice. Until next year, have a profitable day. Cheerio.
You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can live all you ever wanted.
The Business Brain Food podcast is brought to you by Action Coach.